Jose Alvarado has a chance to become the Garden's next beloved native son. That's the headline to our New York Post sports columnist Mike Vaccaro's recent column. Alvarado is Brooklyn's very own and makes his Knicks debut at MSG tonight. Mike joins us. Mike, you took us to school. You went old school with the column. I appreciate it. I learned a lot. So let's get straight up into this. Brooklyn native Carl Braun was the first New York native to play for the Knicks. There have been many others across the years: Stephon Marbury, Bernard King, Richie Guerin. The list goes on and on. So who are some of your most memorable homegrown Knicks?
Well, my most memorable one was Bernard King because he's the guy that I grew up with when I was in high school and was going to a lot of Knicks games. I mean, he was from Fort Hamilton High School, and he was here ever so briefly. But when he was here, he was every bit as good a player in the NBA as there was, and that was a time that included, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Julius Erving. So he's the guy that I always think about. But there are so many others. Richie Guerin is one of the great Knicks of all time too. Him and Bernard probably both deserve to have their banners up at the Garden. Hopefully that would happen at some point. I think the one that people probably the most popular of all was Anthony Mason, from Springfield Gardens, and he became an essential member of some beloved Knicks teams in the '90s, and people loved him not only for his talent but also for his grit and his toughness. And I think that's also a part of what makes Alvarado such a potentially popular player for Knicks fans, New Yorkers, and really anybody who likes basketball. But he's one of ours, so we'll just keep him in the New York basketball family.
So you think it's every New York City born Hooper's dream to play for the Knicks? Because I grew up in Virginia and I didn't root for, nor did I want to play for the Commanders growing up.
Sure. Well, I think it's as much the Garden as it is the Knicks because of the venue and because of the just how important that is. You see players from other teams who make a point of getting extra healthy when they're playing the Knicks in the Garden, especially if they only come in one time a year. It matters a lot to basketball players. The Garden does. I do think that for certain, look, I mean, I think that guys who grew up Knicks fans, obviously it's a huge thing if you become a Knicks fan. Once you become a pro, you're less. I think you're less important about those kind of things. You play for who you play for, and who will pay you. But yeah, I do think there's a certain element, and it's been that way, really going back to the beginning. Carl Braun didn't grow up a Knicks fan only because there wasn't a Knicks team when he grew up. But from there, just about everybody else has talked about, how important being a Knick was because they came from the city, whether it was Dean Memminger, whether it was Stephon Marbury, any of these guys.
There's a lot of pressure to play in this city. So do the homegrown players get special treatment when they do play for the franchise, or do they get even more pressure added to them? It's like, what if some of the guys told you about their playing experience here?
Yeah, well, Dean Memminger, and I talked about this in the column also, Brandon. I mean, he went to Brother Rice High School. I mean, he was New York through and through. He's played a lot of college games at the Garden when he was at Marquette, and he really was a very impactful player with the Knicks early in his career. But he talked about how, when times are good, it feels like you literally know everybody in the Garden by name who's chanting your name. But when times are bad, it's almost like with anything else. People like to distance themselves from somebody who's not the hottest guy in the room, and that didn't help his performance. He didn't think so. It is a double-edged sword, but I think mostly people want to try and embrace it, and they want to try and maximize it.
All right, let's get back to Alvarado. We only have a one-game sample size with him in a Knicks uniform, but I mean his debut against the Celtics, everybody can agree it was nothing short of impressive. What stands out to you most about this kid? Like, does he play with the New York style of basketball?
There's no question about that part of it. Look, I mean, he played well the other day, but I think what people really were taken by right away, and they should have been, was his feistiness and the fact that, look, I mean, he tossed up an air ball, and the Celtics bench started to get on him, and his very next time down the floor, he stripped Jalen Brown clean and got a layup out of it. And that's kind of what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, there's a little bit of swagger to the New York basketball way of life. There's a little bit of trash talk involved. There's also a lot of deliverance. And that's what we got out of Alvarado's first game for sure. And look, I mean, if he can channel that for the next 30 games and into the playoffs, I think you're going to have the makings of a really nice story here.
But he's not Jalen Brunson. It's not like they traded for him to be like the guy. He is a guy. Do you think there's too much hype surrounding him?
No, because look, I mean, he comes in here clearly as a backup. I mean, he's, if there is a stretch of games where he's playing 35 or 40 minutes a game, it's because something went wrong. He's a guy that you can rely on. For the most part, what you want is a guy that you don't have to worry about the 12 or 13 minutes a game that Brunson's not playing, due to his regular rest. And certainly, you can feel that way about him just one game in. It's clear he's going to be equal to that task. There'll be times that he's playing with Brunson too. I think Mike Brown wants to play him about 22 minutes a game. And you know what? If he can give you 22 solid minutes every night, that's just going to make things better for the Knicks. He makes them better defensively. He makes them better in terms of getting the ball sprayed around, which is a popular phrase for Mike Brown. He likes to spray the ball. Really, he's exactly what they needed. I mean, if you could have asked me what the dream list was before the deadline, I would have said a backup point guard and maybe another big. And they didn't get the other big, but I think this was the more important addition because it really does allow the Knicks to play a lot more like how they want to play. And Alvarado's responsible for that so far. And you're right. I mean, it's silly to get carried away one game into it, but that was about as impressive as an opening act as you could ask from any player, but especially one from New York who wants to display what he's all about. And I think we saw that the other night.
So when he checks into the game for the first time tonight, what's the energy going to be like at the Garden?
I think it's going to be an overwhelming ovation because you know what? You don't get a lot of guys who just show up at Knicks games without knowing about what's going on. They know who Jose Alvarado is. They know where he came from. They know where he grew up. They know who he is, and they're going to greet him appropriately. Look, it's not going to be Patrick Ewing coming back to the Garden for the first time, okay? But it's going to be a pretty loud, rousing ovation, I would imagine, because that's just the way New York basketball fans are.
Mike, great column. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Brandon. Great talking to you.